what's new on the Burlington waterfront. Hey, now it's happening at the waterfront on Lake Champlain. Whatever the weather, there's so much to do on the new waterfront, the Burlington waterfront.
Welcome to On the Waterfront. I'm your host, Mariah Riggs, Director of the Main Street Landing Performing Arts Center. This month, I'm excited to have Erica Marks with me, who is the Director of Volunteer Services for Age Well. Welcome to the program, Erica.
Thank you so much.
Really quickly, welcome to the program. I wanted to get quickly into Age Well.
Okay.
And so that we can talk about what is Age Well Vermont,
Yeah.
And what do they do in the state?
Okay, great. So AgeWell is one of 5 area agencies on aging. We're the largest of the 5 area agencies on aging. We cover the northwest quadrant of the state. So basically all of Addison, Chittenden, Franklin, and Grand Isle County. That's all our geographic area. Mm-hmm. And our mission really is to help people live the best quality of life possible at home for as long as possible or in the setting of their choice, which happens to be in their home. And the population that we serve is anyone that is 60 or older.
Oh, wow. So it's 60 or older is the age demographic.
Yes.
And so, I mean, this is not my area of expertise. So 60 and older, not 65 and older?
Right.
And is there a reason for that delineation?
Well, when the Older American Act was written,
Yeah.
it was 60 and older. If you think about 30 years ago, people didn't necessarily live that long. Mm-hmm. Average age span was much lower than it is now. And so, 60 is the age.
That's great. And you were saying, too, a lot of people choose to stay in their homes.
Yes.
And so, I mean, why do you think that is?
I think that a lot of people want to stay in their homes because that's where they're most comfortable. That's where all of their memories are. That's where they've spent time with their family and their grandchildren and their friends. They also want to have control over their environment. If they want it cooler, they can make it cooler. If they can choose what food they eat versus going to a dining room where a community meal is being prepared and you eat what's prepared for you. Most of us love to sleep in our own bed. We might go on vacation, but we look forward to coming home and sleeping in our own bed. And I do think that Vermonters are very independent and they really value their independence, and so they want to be able to manage their lives in the way that they want to live as long as they can.
Yeah, and it's interesting because with my grandmother, I also heard that, her being in her own home and being around her things too is also really good for dementia, and like sort of as she grew older, being around the things she helped her keep her identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we definitely noticed a shift when she went into an assisted living facility.
Oh, yeah.
Significantly.
You sort of get ungrounded because all the things that, most of us could close our eyes and get from our bedroom to the bathroom or get from one room to another in the dark, right? Yep. I do that sometimes. And then you take them and put them in an unfamiliar setting. And then you're limited about how many of your belongings can you have with you and all those other things that really matter.
Yeah, and when people also start doing stuff for you sometimes too, you lose that, again, the independence or the motivation to carry on just kind of like your daily adult tasks, which I think could also, I would assume, be tough as well.
Age Well is, all of the area agencies are very much client focused. And a lot of people don't understand, what does it mean to be client directed? It means that we don't come in and say, oh, Mariah, I think you need someone that can come and clean your house. You need someone that can grocery shop for you. That's not how we work. We meet with you and say, what are the things that you're struggling with? What are the things that you've had to give up that you miss? What are the things that you want to still be able to do? And then we create a plan with you that will allow you to do that. You're very much in the driver's seat. Our job is to try and help you fulfill your goals, whatever those are.
Which is exciting because you still get to have goals.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? You get to be the driver in the driver's seat, the pilot.
Absolutely.
The molder of your own life.
Yes.
And I think sometimes for older individuals, that can be a really tough thing when you feel like you're losing control over your own independence and the direction in which your life takes.
Absolutely. I'm 65. So I know, like, if someone started taking my independence away, I wouldn't be a very happy camper.
Good luck. I imagine they'd have a hard time.
I know. All of our volunteers are trained, so not just our staff are client focused, but our volunteers are client focused too. And people are like, well, how does that work? Okay, so maybe you live in Charlotte and I live in Charlotte, so that means you're the client, I'm the volunteer, you're going to match me. And the answer is no, that's not the way it works. We really get to know every volunteer, we get to know what they love to do, what are their hobbies, what are their interests, where'd they grow up, do they come from a big family, a little family, do they have grandkids, how do they like to spend their time? And we match we learn the same things about the client, and then we match the clients and volunteers together based on common interests. So that's very, very different than just saying, oh, you both live in Charlotte, so that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, there's a commonality there. There's a shared experience that will create contextuality where they can like develop those relationships in a more
And if your favorite thing to do is to go for rides, I don't want to match you with someone who doesn't want a client to ride in their car, right? So
yeah. No, you're looking for success, right?
I am.
So I mean, getting back into that, I think this is important too. I want to talk a little bit about your role at AgeWell as the Director of Volunteer Services and what that means and how that works at AgeWell.
Okay, great. So I am on the leadership team at AgeWell, which means I sit at the table with the other directors where we really all are able to contribute our experience and our wisdom and our viewpoint about what is going to be the best way for us to serve our clients. Nutrition and volunteers are really, so Meals on Wheels. We deliver over 250,000 meals a year.
Wow.
And all of it is delivered, 100% of those meals are delivered by volunteers. But that is a collaboration between the nutrition department, who is the one that qualifies people to be recipients of Meals on Wheels, signs them up, figures out what route to put them on. They do all of that stuff, and then we do the delivery. And if we find a client in distress, the volunteer then reports that back so that either the nutrition department or the volunteer department can make a referral to the case management team and have an options counselor go and visit them, or have them get a phone call from our senior helpline asking if they would like, I understand that you're having a hard time hearing and you lost your hearing aid. I want to make sure you know there is this program that is free to you that we could, you could sign up for this phone and it will read what people are saying, whatever it is, right? Yep. We want to make sure that we're always bringing resources to every client to widen their base of support so that they have the most support. It's really hard when you're old. I mean, my mom is 89. She's the last survivor of her group of friends. Yeah. And that's the thing that loneliness is a huge issue for most of our clients. Their circle of friends, their circle of support is shrinking at a time when they need more support, not less support.
Yeah, and from what I mean, I've heard such incredible things about Meals on Wheels because it is one of those programs that is checking on somebody in their home every day. And those social interactions, those points of contact are so important to keeping people engaged. They have something to look forward to, getting somebody coming into your house, making sure everything's okay, somebody hasn't fallen.
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen in 24 hours when people are living alone.
Yes.
And Meals on Wheels is one of the most effective organizations for that kind of outreach that's consistent.
Yep.
And really fulfills an important role in allowing people to be independent in their own living situation.
Absolutely. All of the Meals on Wheels volunteers know you have a dual mission, guys. One is to bring the food, but the other is to be that friendly face making a visit. And the truth is, we often discover that a client needs more support through the Meals on Wheels volunteer because that volunteer delivers to those same clients every single week. So if I deliver Route 3 in Burlington on Tuesdays, I get to know all the clients on that route. And I notice when something goes awry. I can say, when Mariah answered the door, she did not look, she was really disheveled. Her clothes were she's usually really well put together. There were dirty dishes everywhere. I was really concerned. Something's going on with Mariah. Can someone check in on her?
Yep. And that's important because that's like, not only is it distributing food and sustenance, it's also those check-ins and keeping track of people and developing the relationship.
Yes.
That is so, again, as people get more lonely,
Yes.
having somebody come in and check on you,
Yes.
you're not alone.
Yeah. And everybody develops their favorites. Like the clients have their favorite volunteers, the volunteers have their favorite clients. So they switch the order around. They go to their favorite client last and they stay and they have tea and they, they're very creative about making sure that when they feel a kinship with someone, that they spend a little bit more time with that person. But they're spending time with every person, every door. They're making sure that that person is okay.
That's got to be a really wonderful aspect of your job, is being able to bring people together.
Yes.
And seeing, like you were saying, how you try to place people with commonalities, right?
Yes.
And people with similar interests to partner with each other. And then to see how that works to facilitate these relationships, right? And see them grow and develop has got to be a great aspect of your job.
Absolutely. There's no better job than supporting volunteers. I mean, right? So my job is to make sure that whatever, if we're providing Meals on Wheels, we're providing case management, we're providing counseling around Medicare, whatever it is that we're doing, that there are opportunities for the volunteers to provide needed support that can't be gotten anywhere else. Like the case managers will say, oh my God, thank God for our volunteer program, because I don't know how this client would get groceries. This client is homebound and they don't have the financial means to be able to pay for groceries to be delivered. And, oh, by the way, they live in Richford where there is no grocery delivery. And if it weren't for the volunteer, that would be the tipping point for whether or not they'd be able to stay in their home. That's very, very common. If you want to kind of get the scope of things, last year, the last fiscal year, our volunteers dedicated 72,945 hours. Wow. 72,945 hours. That's the equivalent of 27 full-time staff that are going and visiting. They made over 1,500 visits to clients. The scope is really amazing. They drove 450,443 miles.
That's an amazing.
I understand from our executive officer, she did the math, and it's like driving, the equivalent of driving around the world 17 times. That's how many miles that is.
In a state like Vermont, that's actually particularly
miles.
impressive, especially in just northwestern Vermont. That's a lot.
Well, and it's very rural. So, when you go to visit a client, you might be driving a lot of miles. And if you're delivering Meals on Wheels, you definitely are driving a lot of miles.
That's still impressive.
Yes, it really is.
I mean, the state's only 140 miles long.
I know. I know.
And, I think that's the other thing, too, that is really incredible about your program, is that it's an opportunity to volunteer in something that not only has meaning, but incredible importance into an individual's life.
Yes.
And it's also something that's like a story that continues. It's something that, like, it's not like you just quickly volunteer for like a single one-off or like a quick event or something that's a little bit less intensive. It's really a lifestyle choice. Right, that allows you to develop relationships with older people and remarkable people. And I have friends who volunteer for Meals on Wheels, and they said it was a life changer. Yeah, that it's brought so much meaning into their lives, and that it's helped reframe on some level their own lives. Right. About like, oh, well, I'm sad today because of X, Y, or Z. Right. Those things, going out and helping people, all of a sudden, they're like, I wasn't sad anymore about X, Y, Z anymore. Right. Because giving back is such a palpable.
All the volunteers say they get way more out of it than they give. Way more out of it than they give. And honestly, when I built the program, I've been there for 9.5 years. When I built the program, I purposely built it to engage other older Vermonters or other senior Vermonters who wanted to be engaged in meaningful relationships within their own communities. 75% of our volunteers are 60 or older.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have 3 volunteers that are in their 90s.
So it's so funny. Your it's almost a self-replicating cycle. Yes. That that works for everyone.
Yes.
Depending on where they're at.
Yes. So, and honestly, I mean, I think The reason that we're as successful as we are, this is a crazy statistic. 99.9% of our volunteers say they would encourage family and friends to volunteer with Age Well. That's crazy, right? That they love what they do and they get way more out of it than they give. But that's because there's lots and lots of options for ways that you can volunteer. Let's say you're a little squeamish about developing a relationship and you love to grocery shop. Great, you can be a grocery shopping volunteer. And you can grocery shop every week for the same client, or you could grocery shop for different clients. Let's say that you have a medical background and your parents live in Massachusetts and they had a really hard time getting to medical appointments, and you say, hey, anytime you have someone that needs to go to a medical appointment, I'm happy to go and accompany them. I will stay with them. I will help them ask questions of the doctor. I will help them call their daughter in California when we get home and share what the doctor said.
So it's almost like a medical care advocate.
It is. And so you can do that. We have minor home repair volunteers. The only thing they do, they are one-time volunteers. They go in, they do whatever repair is needed, and then they move on to the next client. And then we have our friendly visiting volunteers who want a meaningful relationship with one client. So they're assigned to one client. They see that client. Oh boy, they might see that client for 3 months. They might see that client for 3 years. I have one Meals on Wheels volunteer that I met with last week. She has been delivering the same route to the same clients for 20 years. 20 years.
That's incredible.
20 years. It's like she knows them so much better than any of the staff do because she's been seeing them for that long. We have our Respite Volunteer Training Program, which is really important because one of the big epidemics nationally, not just in Vermont, is that we have a lot of folks who are caring for a loved one. Whether they're caring for their spouse, whether they're caring for their parents, whether they're caring for a sibling who can no longer be left alone. It's not safe for them to be left alone. They are feeble, or they have mobility issues, or they have dementia, or they have Alzheimer's, right? They can't be left alone. And people spend thousands of hours caring for people they love without recognizing the toll it takes on them. It's one thing, someone has a baby or someone breaks a leg and you have to care for them. And you're like, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, no big deal. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to rearrange things. It'll be fine. But when it goes on for 6 months, 9 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, the toll it takes is really serious on the caregiver.
Well, because when you're disproportionately taking care of others, your own self-care is neglected.
Exactly.
I mean, this is some of the equation, right? That's how it works.
It's exactly right. So we have a group of volunteers that are respite trained who make a commitment to see the same family every single week for 3 hours at the same time. So the caregiver can plan their self-care around when the volunteer is there.
Yes, they can actually go out and talk to a friend.
They can go out, meet with a friend, get their hair done, go to a doctor's appointment, go for a walk, take a nap, whatever it is that they need.
Yeah, and sometimes especially in caregiving too, with people you love, you want to always give those extra bits to people, and it can come out of yourself.
Yes,
and
very
that's
much
incredibly
so.
valuable. And I feel that caregivers aren't adequately understood or appreciated in our society.
No, they're not. And if you're if you have limited financial means, it's often unaffordable. I mean, many of the clients can't afford the cost of hiring in a private caregiver.
Oh, it'd be astronomical. No,
Right.
I can't even imagine how expensive that would be.
Yeah.
And so, those are the kinds of sacrifices you have to make a lot of the time, and and you're part of that.
Yeah.
So that's a really wonderful program. So we've talked about some of the base level of volunteerships. Are there other things besides the ones that we have covered so far?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, volunteers, there's so many things they can do.
This is good. I think it's important for our audience to know the full spectrum of things that they can reach out to you about.
It might be that they go once a month and help balance the checkbook and make sure that the checks that are being written get in the right envelope and get into the mail, right? It might be that we have someone who has come to the conclusion that the family home that they've lived in for 42 years is too big, too expensive, too much, and now they want to be around people. So maybe they want to move into a condominium, or they want to move into senior housing where there are other folks and activities around, or maybe their own health has declined and now they need assisted living. So we have volunteers that will go and help them figure out What do you want to keep? What do you want to take with you? Help them pack to get ready for the move. Help them make decisions like they're going to give the other stuff away to their kids, or they want to send it to Resource or wherever they want to send it, right? Or who will help unpack on the other end and help get like hang the pictures on the wall, hang the curtains on so that's one thing that we do. Help with organizing. We have clients, this happens. You go into the hospital, you're having knee replacement surgery, you're going to be in for 72 hours. Something goes wrong, you get an infection, now they have to repeat the surgery, and now before you know it, instead of going home, you're going to rehab, and you're going to be there for 6 weeks. And what happens at home? Well, number one, there's 6 weeks worth of mail that has piled up in your absence. There's all the food that's gone bad in your refrigerator because you didn't know you were going to be gone for 6 weeks, right? So it's great to be able to send a volunteer in shortly when they get home and help them, like recycle anything you don't need, sort through the mail, put it in order, and help me get back on track because it's exhausting to do that.
Reclaiming your life.
It is exhausting.
Especially after an emergency situation of that nature.
Unexpected. We can go and have a volunteer clean out the fridge, go to the grocery store, get the food you need, make sure that the food is there so when you come home, you have what you need.
That's incredible.
We have volunteers, you have cataract surgery, and there are certain medical procedures where you can't leave in a cab. They won't let you go home in a cab because they've used anesthesia, and so you have to have someone that can take you. Well, our volunteers can take you home. They can make sure you have your water, that you have your tea, that you have your phone, that you have your TV controls, whatever it is you need, right? They can help you get situated so that you can successfully manage what you need to manage. We have volunteers that love to do friendly visiting, and that could be anything based on common interests. So you love doing jigsaw puzzles, I love doing jigsaw puzzles, we do jigsaw puzzles together. You love riding around on the back roads in Vermont, that's a hobby of yours, I love doing that too, we're going to do that.
So basically, I mean, and this is important for all of you to be aware of, if this is something that interests you, okay, Erica has the right volunteer opportunity for you.
Yes, guaranteed.
Okay? If you have a skill set or something that interests you or something you want to be able to give to people who are older, who are looking for a friendship and help with medical conditions or just dealing with the home or basic day-to-day tasks, there is a volunteer opportunity for you.
Yes.
So make sure you reach out to Erica. Now, this is very important. How does somebody get in touch with you, Erica, if they want to become a volunteer?
So the easiest way is to pick up the phone and dial 802-662-5249.
Okay.
That's the easiest way. You can also go to the Age Well website and you can click on volunteer and it will take you to a link and you can contact us through the website. But 662-5249 is absolutely the easiest way.
And so, just so people understand, what exactly is the process?
Oh, that's a great question. So you contact us to let us know you're interested in volunteering. We ask you a few questions because we want to make sure most of our volunteers volunteer Monday through Friday during the day because that's when the clients need the help. We don't get as many requests on weekends or evenings. Plus, Age Well isn't open on the evening and weekends, and we want to make sure we can support the volunteers if they encounter something unexpected because they do sometimes encounter unexpected things. So we just make sure that that fits with your schedule, and we hear like, what do you want to do? How often are you available? Okay. And then we send you one form. It's an information form where you give us some information about you, and then we send you a background authorization form because we do run 6 background checks on every volunteer.
Which is great to hear from a client perspective.
Absolutely.
It's very important.
We want to make sure that the volunteer we're sending is safe and vice versa. We don't want to send them into unsafe situations either.
Exactly.
Our criteria for accepting a referral is it has to be safe for the volunteer and it has to be rewarding and or enjoyable for the volunteer.
Wow.
When we send the information and background check form off and you send them back, we set up a time to do an interview. And 2 staff members will spend anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour really getting to know you and really getting
So there's an interview process.
Oh,
You come in.
yeah, because we want to know what days of the week work best for you? Are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person? What do you like to do? You love to grocery shop. Oh, no, you love to knit. Oh, you love to write letters. Whatever it is, we need to know what you love, what are your passions, in order to know which clients to match you with.
I'm sure there's also a certain element of personality too. Like you meet certain people and you're like, oh, I know exactly who you'd be perfect. You know,
Absolutely.
certain energies and certain groups
Often
of people.
during the interview. They don't even get out of the interview before we say, oh, we've got the perfect client for you.
You sound like a casting agent.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But one of the things that's really important right now is that we're really kind of up against the wall in that we have more requests coming in than we have available volunteers.
Okay.
So in all seriousness, if we could put on 100 new volunteers, that would be amazing. Because right now I have 24 of, so I have 1,062 volunteers. I think that's important to say. We have 1,062 volunteers.
I think that's the highest number I've ever heard in the state of Vermont.
Of those 1,062 volunteers, only 24 of them are not already assigned, either delivering meals or visiting with clients. And last week I got 28 requests. So you can do the math.
Yep.
I only have 24 available volunteers. Last week I got 28 requests. I'll get another between 20 and 30 this week. I'll get between 20 and 30 next week. So we're really at the point where we've maxed out what our volunteer pool can do. We need another 100 volunteers.
And I was going to ask you too, because I do think this is pertinent, is, you know, Vermont has an aging population, right?
Yes.
And so these kinds of services are going to become more and more valuable to the state and to our community at large.
Absolutely.
As our population ages into this place of need. And so the call for volunteering and the call for the community to step in and offer these support roles becomes that much more pertinent.
Absolutely.
It's really true.
Yes.
I'm gobsmacked about your volunteer number. I've never heard such a large number in the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
Well, Erica, good for you. That's incredible.
Yeah. Jane always says the special sauce is, I mean, I say we're professional matchmakers. I mean it. We take that part of our job really seriously. We don't want to match you in a situation or with a client that you're not going to enjoy. And when we get it right, the volunteers tell everybody they know, you should go volunteer for AgeWell. I love it.
I've heard such remarkable things about your organization. Yeah. I really have. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for the work you do.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Because it really is incredibly important in our community.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about it.
Well, it's
and
been a delight, Erica.
Recruit some new volunteers.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. Erica, it's been a joy to have you on the program, and I will see you right back here next month. Take care.